What is going on, you guys? It's that time again for another Squared Circle Wrestling Chat. This is episode 7. And in this episode, I think we've brought to you the best guest we've had so far as knowledge base in card collecting. And we brought you the face of wrestling cards, in my opinion, the absolute face of wrestling card collecting, Mr. David Peck. He has a footprint on Instagram. He has a larger foot on Twitter. So I'll leave both of those links down in the description box. I'm going to keep this super short and sweet. This interview is over an hour, and it is awesome with the amount of knowledge that Mr. Peck has. So I will shut up and let's get straight in. So our guest on this show is going to be Mr. David Peck. If you don't know David Peck, well, then you probably aren't collecting wrestling cards. Not to make his head big because he can't hear us, but I would say that he has probably the greatest wrestling card collection I have ever seen.
Hands down.
Mike and I have seen one or two collections in our day, and he is just so far and beyond every other wrestling card collection I've ever seen. So we were super excited to be able to get him on this mom and pop show Mike and I do. So let's bring in Mr. Peck.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, man. Thanks. It's our pleasure. Trust me.
Our pleasure. 100%.
To have you here. Let's just jump right into it. If you could just tell us, when did you fall in love with the sport of wrestling? When did you get into this?
Well, I'll tell you what. So I'm 41, and I'm lived in Orlando my entire life. And so my dad was, I come from a sort of blue-collar background, and, wrestling in the 70s was certainly not what you'd classify as high class. And so championship wrestling from Florida was probably the hottest territory in the country. The New York territory was bigger in terms of grossing dollars. But in the 70s, Florida, with Eddie Graham being the president of the NWA, it was a major, major territory. So my dad would go to the matches at the, it was called the Orlando Sports Stadium. And then Eddie Graham bought it, and it became the Eddie Graham. And so they would go and watch the matches. And so I started watching wrestling in diapers. And so I would say, and then, probably when I watch on YouTube the old episodes, I think it's around 1984 is when I start to sort of like remember what was taking place. And then in 85, we'd race home from church and miss the first 15 minutes. But what really stunk was Kevin Sullivan was the top heel. And he had taken on this sort of demonic persona. And, and this was apparently happened all over the state of Florida. Religion and church was big, and church groups were trying to get him off the air. So we'd get home, we'd get the wrestling on, and then my mom would force us to turn it off. And then 2 minutes later, 3 minutes later, 5 minutes later, we're trying to turn the TV on, and if he's still on, we had to keep it off. So, but I fell in love, and then obviously in 85, Hogan took the world by storm, and so I was a Hulkamaniac, and
Nice.
I've been a Hulkamaniac ever since. So, I love wrestling. I'd say that right now is probably the most challenging time to be a wrestling fan, just because the lack of audience. I've been to a lot of wrestling shows, and I feel like us fans really, really add to the excitement.
Right.
And, right now you don't have it. So I guess I'd say 37 years ago is when I became, fell in love.
So I know you said that you are a Hulkamaniac. So other than the Hulkster, who are some of your favorite babyfaces?
Well, I tell you, Kerry Von Erich is pretty much right at the top. In 1984, my parents bought me a book with him and Ric Flair on the cover, and I didn't know who he was. You know, I couldn't really figure it out. We didn't have cable. And, you know, when you're 5 years old, you know, it's not like the internet existed. So by 86, neighbor down the street had ESPN. And so got to see the Von Erichs.
Nice.
And, you know, I think Kerry, what I like so much about Kerry is like he was sort of the ultimate stud. I mean, the guy obviously, you know, enhanced his physique with, you know, a lot of chemicals, but you don't, I mean, you don't really, you can't look like that unless you have like incredible genetics. I mean, he
Right.
was an incredible athlete and he had the persona, the charisma, and so huge Kerry Von Erich fan. I loved The Rock for a long time. I think, you know, in the late 90s, what was so great about The Rock is you could get chicks to watch wrestling because, you know, Monday night was wrestling. And it was like, hey, if you want to hang out, we got to put on Monday Night Raw, you know? And then, you know, I think I guess the challenge with this question is there's a lot of people that were like baby faces and heels, you know, and so I guess The Rock started as a heel, but for most of his career, he was a good guy. Randy Savage, you know, obviously switched for a time. I think he was fantastic, and but you know, I like bad guys a lot too. I mean, I think you've got to have, and that's what makes wrestling so tough today. Is there's no real bad guys. The closest thing to a bad guy is MJF in AEW. And you know, I don't really watch that stuff that much, but I like somebody like that that's going to stay in character, you know. And the internet has ruined really the ability to be a heel because you've got such soft fans online.
Right. Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah, I would say like maybe Seth Rollins would be a heel, and then you go to his Instagram, and then he's posing with Becky Lynch with these baby pictures.
Well, I mean, go back in time and think about Kevin Sullivan, and think about, you know, the guys coming to the ring with like snakes. He's got like control over Bob Roop and let's see, the Prince, the Purple Haze, Mark Lewin. You know, I mean, that was awesome. Like when you watch, I love YouTube because you can go back in time and see, let's say, Roddy Piper. I mean, Roddy Piper in 1985, 84, I mean, he was unbelievable. I mean, people really believed that guy was evil.
Yeah, no doubt. Question I had for you, Dave. Can you tell us a little bit, as far as your card collecting, has it always been wrestling? Like what, you know, were you into other sports at some point too?
Sure.
Or has it always just been the wrestling?
Well, so being a product of the 80s, I was a Dwight Gooden fan. And so in 85, we were chasing 85 tops. There was a Revco that had 85 Fleer, like the cello packs. And so, you know, we chased those. And I did buy a couple packs from Woolworths of the 85 tops, but of the WWF. But the thing I think people have got to keep in mind is in 85, if you came from sort of modest means, you know, money was scarce. You were not buying the wrestling cards. You were buying the baseball, you know, like Mike Gooden. I think that, you know, one of the things that helped me, you know, sort of become the person I am is chasing baseball cards, because when you think about buying a 35-cent pack or a 50-cent pack, and it might have a $15 Dwight Gooden, you know, that's real. You know, it's like it's like an investment. You know, we all checked the Beckett hoping for plus arrows. I mean, that was like the Wall Street Journal.
Right.
So I collected baseball in the I want to say 89 was the 89 was the Magic, Orlando Magic's debut. So got into hoops, and, you know, collected basketball for a few years. Then in 1990, this was really neat. And my dad was in construction, and so he took a part-time job, and it's funny, I put this on Facebook the other day, and he was quick to point out that it was just a job so that we could go. And so he worked the concession stand at the Orlando Sun Rays. And so we got a chance to go and watch the games and sit up close. And actually, it's funny, I pulled out a signed card the other day of Pat Mahomes, which is Patrick Mahomes' father. You know, we were, you know, sort of close with him. But I got really into minor league cards, and, you know, Frank Thomas, Ryan Klesko, Jeff Bagwell. Then in my early 20s, I finally had a little bit of disposable income. And so I started buying the cards I wanted that I didn't have, like 84 Fleer Update, 85 Top Tiffany, you know. And then, you know, as I got a few years older, I would go out to work dinners and find myself, I'd come home and hit eBay, and, you know, I bought a couple of Ken Griffey Juniors. I woke up the next day, I didn't even remember I bought. So it had a little bit of stuff like that. And so periodically I would just sort of check eBay prices. And then in 2009, you know, Brock Lesnar was in the UFC. And so I bought some of these UFC 100 commemorative, like, Pops, like, thick cards. Those have been a terrible investment. One of the few cards I bought back then that have gone down. And so anyway, I bought those, and I said, you know, Brock has got, you know, he tried out for football. I think he has some football cards. So I found the 2004 football cards, dabbled in a little bit of his wrestling stuff, nothing too major. And I said, you know, there used to be a Hulk Hogan when we were growing up. I said, let me see what that thing goes for. And in that search, I found the 1982 Wrestling All-Stars, and I found some auctions, and it had all that was shown was a Hulk and a Jerry Lawler. And then the 82B, there was Iron Sheik, Sergeant Slaughter, and Tito Santana. So the guy was asking what I thought was a lot, you know, had no pricing data to go on. And went a week, they didn't sell. He cut the opening bids in half. I placed a bid that night. I woke up the next day. I won the cards. 5-6 days later, whatever it was, they come in the mail. I open them up, and I see that there's an Andre the Giant. There's a Ric Flair. There's Kerry Von Erich. There's Jesse Ventura. I just was like, you've got to be kidding me. And so anyway, at that point forward, I just dove head first.
Nice. Very cool.
Hey, so on those sets, on the 82s, they only came in a set, correct?
That's correct.
Because it seems, because I've been dabbling in it for, what, my 6 months now or so?
Yeah.
Like, I have an 82 set A and B, and I'm trying to work on the 83. But it seems like the Iron Sheik and Sergeant Slaughter seem to be more rare than a lot of the other bigger name guys, especially the Sheik. It almost seems like he just never comes up, and I didn't know if there was something to that.
Well, there's no card that's any more rare than the next, because they came in full sets. And so they were mail order only. I think what the issue you're probably encountering is there's been this sort of, I always have to preface this by saying it's a fancy word. There's a bifurcated market. And what I mean by that is like, I've seen that you've posted some signed cards. Mm-hmm. So what's happened is a lot of the performers that are still alive, those are getting harder to find because people have been buying them to get them signed. Right. In the case of Slaughter and Iron Sheik, I'd say that they're two of the better stars from the second set. But, you know, Slaughter is, you know, he's done signings. I went to, last November, I went to North Carolina. My buddy Greg is he's a big collector. And I mean, he's got an unbelievable wrestling card collection. He's not public on, you know, social media, but people will find him as Weiss Esquire on eBay. And, you know, Greg has some serious stuff. And so anyway, he's a full-time attorney, but for fun, he became a wrestling vendor. And so it's been a lot of fun. I guess, 3 shows with him. And so I flew up to North Carolina, and we did The Gathering, and Slaughter was there. And I cracked out a PSA 9 and got Slaughter to sign it. And it was a really dicey situation because he's like, "Let me see the back." I said, "Not yet. No, 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 no." And he goes, "Okay." I said, "Let me get this thing to dry, and I'll put it in the card saver, and then you can touch it." And
Right.
so anyway, it was my sole mission as far as collectibles for that weekend was to get the Slaughter signed. I mean, I was getting other stuff signed, but when you crack out a 9 and you get it signed, the hope is that it stays a 9.
Right.
And so anyway, it did. I sent it back to PSA, and it graded a 9. So I think that's more the issue, is just that there's twofold demand: the grading side and the signing side.
Yeah, I was telling Mike about a month ago that I thought it was funny when, Greg the Hammer Valentine or the Boogeyman was going to be doing a signing. Like a month before that signing, you could pick them up for $10, $15 on auction all day long. And then 2 weeks, 3 weeks before the signing, I was telling Mike, I'm like, man, this Greg the Hammer Valentine just went up like $40, man. Like, what the heck is going on? And then the signing would pass, and then they'd go back down. And I thought it was the craziest thing because you don't see that in the other big sports, but I think it's because it's just so much more, it's so much bigger. There's so much more available, these cards.
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing is, the real problem is the flow of supply is very unpredictable. And when you get a couple weeks out from a signing, all of a sudden people are like, "I haven't picked one up yet. I really need one." And, the thing about collectibles in general is the market's very thin. You get like 3, 4 people can drive something up dramatically. If 2 of those people back away, the price can fall significantly.
Right.
And so in the case of the All Stars, there's so Greg, and he has more signed All Stars than anybody. I mean, I don't want to say how many he has. I mean, I don't know the specific amount, but I mean, he has a stupid amount, like a lot. And so he would show up like when the first show I did with him was in Orlando here for WrestleMania 33. And so we worked with Tully Blanchard and Stan Hansen were the 2 guys I worked with at the tables, which was great. And, it was fun to educate Tully on the cards. He thought it was neat. Well, Greg was working the floor. I mean, he brought Ted DiBiase a stack of 60. Okay. Like, that's how many he has. So, and being a vendor like that, he is able to do trades and stuff like that. So, I mean, he's got a lot.
That's
insane.
Wow.
It is. It's insane.
Did you think when you got into this years ago, I mean, it's almost like some of these that you bought ages ago, they've gone up. I mean, you bought them for pennies on the dollar what they are now.
Yeah, I mean, I was very, very confident that they would go up. I think it's not fair for me to say I thought they'd go up as much as they have. But I was very, very optimistic. And I think what happened was, so I started in 2010. I got into a bidding war on a Panini Mike Tyson, and in the process, and it was a beater. I won it. I stayed up till like midnight, and I won it for like $82, and it came from Italy. And I was like, man, this thing's got huge potential. So in the process of researching the Tyson, I found the PSA message board, Collector's Universe, and there was a thread talking about the Mike Tyson. So I created an account and I logged in, and the guy thought he had been shilled. And I logged in. I said, "Hey, you weren't shilled. That was me." And I won a bunch. I bought a bunch more of these from this guy Martin Bradford. And so, anyway, so then, I sort of disclosed that I was really aggressive in buying the Wrestling All-Stars. And, there's a Hulk Hogan thread and it wouldn't exist today. They would shut it down fast. But, back then they really let the message board, it was kind of like the Wild Wild West. And there's over 1,000 comments. And anyway, everybody was making fun of me. They hijacked my Facebook page. They made fun of my wife.
Really?
It was actually, to be honest with you, I laugh about it now. At the time, I was disheartened because I thought, man, just because the cards I collect are different than the baseball I used to collect, they're still trading cards. Like, I mean,
yeah,
we're all collectors, right?
Absolutely.
So anyway, but what I said to those guys at the time is I said, listen, the response I'm getting from y'all tells me that these have nowhere to go but up, because if the information flow is this bad, it can't get any worse. And
right.
my take was that, you have Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Andre the Giant. I mean, these are pop culture icons.
Mm-hmm.
I really believe the wrestling card market is sort of split in two. I usually use Dick Murdoch as my example, but since Missing Link is important to the conversation, I'll use Missing Link. Wrestling card collectors will collect a Missing Link card. But you have pop culture crossover buyers that collect Hulk Hogan. So, when you have Hulk, who is easily in the top 25 most recognizable human beings in the world, it has to have some value. And at the time I said, listen, you could take a Mike Schmidt, and he's a tremendous baseball player, one of the best. He walks through the Orlando airport and he may or may not get recognized.
Yep.
Hulk Hogan takes 1 foot in the Orlando airport and he's got TMZ coming up to him trying to interview him. So I just knew that there had to be potential. And so what really made me sort of pattern my collection was there's a guy that was big in the 1959 Fleer Three Stooges. And I thought, you know what? These are similar to that. I get it. Wrestling is choreographed. It's not a sport, but it's popular and it's going to stay popular. And the thing is he didn't just have one graded set. He had a lot. And so what I did is I kept buying and buying and buying. And so, I've got a lot. I mean, I think when I send in I got a new stack here I'm going to send to PSA shortly. I'll have 12, almost 13, graded 82 All-Star sets. And so, there's lots of them like Bruiser Brody where I've got, I don't even know how many. I think I got like 31 Hogans at this point. So, I have a lot of this stuff. And so my goal was identify cards that I thought were good, I like, and, and let's see if they go up. And, so they go.
No big deal. 31 Hogans, whatever.
Yeah, not a big deal. Just 31, just kind of hanging out. It's funny, Dave, when you talk about that is, Garrett on his YouTube channel, apart from this, actually did a segment where his hashtag is my hobby. And you touched on that. You got a lot of haters back in the day because of what you're collecting. And we're in full agreement, Garrett and I. If you collect, Olympic rowing cards, hey, whatever you're into, it's your hobby. It has nothing to do with the outside world. This is what you collect. Some people are into coins and stamps and God knows what it is. I think there's collectors. There's like a collecting gene that's bred in us. And, you get one and you just got to keep getting more and more of whatever it is. But whatever it is, we're of the mindset that you collect what you enjoy, not what everyone else is telling you that you should get. Whatever you enjoy, you go after it. And kudos for you for, putting up with what you had to back in the day, because we've even got some buddies that, like, when we said, yeah, we're going to do this wrestling YouTube channel and we started collecting, they're like, what? And we're like, yeah, wrestling's cool, but it's funny that there's a lot of guys that we know through the YouTube world that comment on my channel, comment on Garrett's, on whatever we're putting out. But we're finding out there's more wrestling fans out there. There are these closet wrestling fans.
There's a lot of quality fans out there.
Yeah, once you start talking about it, they start, I remember this and I remember that. And it's like there's a lot more out there that than meets the eye. That's for darn sure.
Well, I agree completely. And, you know, I think the thing about so much of collectibles is nostalgia.
Yep.
And I honestly, you kind of asked earlier about the baseball versus wrestling, and I just don't have a connection to baseball like I do wrestling. So on a rainy Saturday in Orlando, I'm sitting on the couch with a bag of David sunflower seeds in a cup and a drink, and I'm watching YouTube and I'm watching 80s wrestling, Bruiser Brody, or, you know,
nice.
Texas, or anything. I mean, I love old wrestling, and you know, it was in the 80s. You know, listen, I mean, my parents did the best they could. I couldn't ask for better parents. But you know, I have 3 brothers, 6 mouths to feed, and you know, money was tight, and so I never really had the ability to buy the baseball cards I wanted. You know, got some, like, I mean, I cut yards like everybody else, and you know, we'd be able to buy some, but I didn't have the ability to sort of throw my weight around. And now, you know, I mean, I've been a financial advisor for 16 years. You know, I've done, you know, traded the stock market, you know, for 20 something years myself, you know, so I, you know, as an adult, got in the position where, you know, I could buy the stuff I wanted, you know, and but the thing is that the other issue is, like, wrestling is so cheap compared to the major sports. I mean, I don't listen. Far be it from me to tell people what to spend their money on, but when I see like prospect cards that sell for 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, listen, maybe you're going to hit it right. You know, maybe the Jason Dominguez or whatever his name is, you know, is going to be that guy, and you kill it. Zion, I think if you look at him, he's got such a physical presence that you just sort of assume that guy is going to be a star. And so I'd sort of maybe put him in the category of it's most likely going to happen, but there's been so many prospects from every sport that have never materialized. Well, absolutely. Wrestling, I mean, you have, you know, so many of these people that are legends. It's not going to change. And so, you know, if you get, I guess it was probably 2 months ago, the initial record for a wrestling card was there was a PSA 9 sign, so PSA DNA, Hulk Hogan, and it's been in the Pop Report for 10 years. Almost wondered if it was real. The way I knew it was real is it got reholdered. And so, you know, I checked the population report every single day for the Wrestling All-Stars. And so I saw that it had been removed. Well, when you reholder a card, it gets removed and then just sort of added back. So anyway, knew it was real, and it comes for auction, sold for over $20,000, right? Now, unbelievable item. Was, I have to admit, I did not see that price tag coming. So, you know, that's part of what we've seen the last year is a lot of collectibles have gone for prices that most of us didn't expect. But so here you have an Apex item, and it's $20,000. You go to baseball, and there's estimates that the PSA 8 Honus Wagner is $35 million. The Ken Kendricks, who owns it, has said publicly he has it insured for $12 million. So he's been offered that. So just think about that. I mean, and I'm not the demand profile for wrestling versus baseball is immensely different. But 20,000 for a peak item versus 12 to 35 million, you know? So for me, what was really nice is that I think the prices are obtainable, you know, like I get it, $2,000 for a card is more than most people want to spend. But, you know, the cards that have sold for, say, 2,000, most of them have actually, you know, I mean, you get a lot of cards for your money, whereas you spend 5,000 on that Bowman Chrome prospect, and 4 years from now, it might be $50.
Right.
Right.
Exactly right.
Or less.
I mean, look at Steven Strasburg. Now, I know he's resurrected himself. I can't keep, I don't know what his card prices are, but I mean, he was it 8 years ago or 9 years ago or something? He took the hobby by storm for a short window of time and had a severe injury. And I mean, his cards collapsed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They sure did. They sure did.
Hey, so I want to get into like kind of a show and tell segment here in just a second. But
sure,
I cannot help but to see those wrestling figures behind you. And my 10-year-old son and I have kind of gotten to like the modern day collecting. You know, we're at Walmart or Target. We'll always go look at the figures. Do you collect figures as well?
I do. So basically, in the mid '80s, I had a few LJNs. Okay, and then by '89, I traded this guy Justin Maderer that we played baseball. I traded him a bunch of basketball cards, 88 Fleer, so nothing that you look back and say, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. And so then by 15, we had a garage sale and my mom sold them. Now, let me just say, I'm not the guy that had mint condition figures. So these were beat up, played with, you know, so they're still worth something, but nothing major. So what happened in 2010 when I started sort of consuming, well, 09 cards, but 10 is when I really got crazy. I started buying mint on the card wrestling figures. Now, I would try to find sort of beat up backs so that the price wasn't as high. And so I'd pop them out. You know, it was fun to open them up. You know, I didn't get to do it like I wanted to in the 80s. This ring was in the package, you know, mint in the package ring. I put it together myself, put the stickers on it. Now, what is interesting is I do look at, you can't see them there because I have some over here. I used to have a shelf behind me. I'm getting ready to take that Jordan down. We're in this front room that we're sort of redesigning. And I used to have a bunch more figures behind me. I've got, you can't see them, but I framed my uncut sheets of the 82A and 82B All-Stars.
Wow.
So those are going to go back there. And so anyway, I did buy a white shirt Hogan, paid $129 for it, and it was actually a pretty nice one. Popped that baby out, and now those things are like $1,000.
Yeah.
You know? So I tell you, like even like an Andre, I think I paid like $21 for a long-haired Andre with a terrible backer card, and those are like $400 now. You know, so if you want to do the show and tell, I'll start off.
I feel like you got into wrestling like when Tesla was $8 a stock, and now it is what it is. That's pretty much wrestling.
So this is one I will not crack out. And what you're looking at here is, I would just say, so I got it signed, 1981 Ichiban #1 Hulk Hogan.
Unbelievable.
So here, let me explain this to you. So,
I've never seen that before.
Well, this is Hogan's rookie figure. It's the 1981 Poppy from Japan. Now, this right here is Hogan's rarest trading card. And so nobody knows why, but there's 10 figures in the set. And for some reason, the Hogan card is not on his figure almost every time. It's Mil Mascaras. And nobody has pulled a Hogan. So underneath that Hogan is 6 other cards. So it's a little pack of cards.
Right.
So the 1981 Hogan Poppy is unbelievably rare. I just recently bought a beat up raw copy. There's 14 known copies in the hobby. I mean, it's unbelievably rare. And matter of fact, today I just got in the mail this month's SMR that PSA puts out, and my Hogan article is in there, and you'll see, we talk about the Hogan Poppy, show the picture of him signing this. And so it's a unbelievable piece because, for figure collectors, it's the holy grail of Hogan. And this also has the Hogan Poppy card. So, and then I got him to sign it, which
all in one piece.
It's all one piece. I mean, it's a big deal. I mean, and you go back to what we were talking about earlier, like Apex items. When I had Hulk sign it, he's only seen a couple of these ever. He said in '81 his mom had one. And so, I mean, you're dealing with extreme rarity. And, it's awesome.
Yeah. No doubt.
You got anything else for us that you can show us? That is.
Yeah. Well, so you had asked me to, I guess I'll start with the quote unquote rare stuff. I mean, in reality, all this stuff's sort of rare. This right here is super, super cool.
Wow.
This is a hand-drawn Jerry the King Lawler. So I was really fortunate. One of the things that, I'm active online.
Right.
And so that's how I met you guys.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that's happened is because I'm always buying and people know I'm into the stuff, I get people contacting me, either one trying to sell me stuff or more often than not trying to buy my stuff. And so anyway, I have a good friend that runs a Memphis Facebook page. And he has a good friend that runs a promotion in Tennessee and it's really, really tight with Jerry the King Lawler. And so Mark says, David, this guy's got some 82 All-Stars he wants to sell. He's asking a lot of money. So let me see him. Okay, I'll buy him. And so I said, listen, if you come across any more of these, let me know. I'm always looking for them. Well, probably 5 or 6 years ago, I found out from a guy that I used to talk to that Jerry the King Lawler, had signed an All-Stars card for him and said, I got a bunch of these. I've got sealed packs that Norman Keitzer gave me. And so I knew that those existed. I knew he had 7 or 8 packs. And so anyway, turns out he gave them to this guy who's a really close friend of his. I get the feeling it's more of a like a tip. Like, here, I'm going to give you something of value, right?
Yeah.
And so he says, I found 3 sealed packs. I said, I'll buy them. So I buy that with the other ones at the same time. So I said, listen, if you find anything else, let me know. I want to buy them. And so a few days later, he contacts me and says, I found some more. And he goes, but Jerry found these sketch cards from Topps because when, I think a lot of people, and I didn't realize how good an artist he is. He would do these sketch cards for the Topps. It was like a one-of-one chase card. So anyway, they send you a handful, and I'm assuming that's in case you mess up. And so he says to me, hey, do you want Jerry to draw you a card? And we've got like 3 or 4 of these. And I was like, well, okay. I'm more interested in the sealed sets, but I said, tell you what, if you think Jerry could draw me an 82 All-Stars card of his card, I'd do that. So all of a sudden, I'm at the gym, I'm doing the Stairmaster, and he goes, hey, Jerry wants to talk to you. So and we get Jerry the King Lawler on the phone. And so I said, hey, listen, I'm, obviously really enthusiastic about this stuff. I had, I posted on Twitter and Jerry had like retweeted some of my stuff. I've got one of his in a PSA 10 and, that's super rare. And so anyway, I said, listen, could you draw me one of your 82 All-Stars? He goes, sure, no problem. Okay. So I said, listen, I don't know what you charge for this. I'll just pay whatever you guys think's fair, but I still want those sealed sets. And so the guy's like, well, I don't know yet. And I said, okay, that's fine. So the next day he agrees to sell, and I send him the money for both. And so 6 weeks goes by, don't hear anything. And out of the clear blue, I get so Jerry had followed me on Twitter, and I get a private message from Jerry, and he goes, hey, do you want to see what I drew for you? And I said, yeah, of course. He sent it to me, and I mean, I'm telling you, I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. This, like, I don't think, and I'll put it back up. I mean, when you look at how well this is, like, I mean, it is a hand-drawn card, and the detail is just unbelievable. I mean, he did such a good job. And
That's
then, of course, the fact is, the signature. So
that's
I
amazing.
would put that is in the category of most rare, but one of my favorites. I mean,
Sure.
listen, I mean, it's to have King Lawler, who I think is, he's 70 years old. He's been in wrestling 50 years.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty awesome.
Personality. I'll tell you a kind of a very similar story, but nowhere near as cool as what you were saying. So I'm in the military. I'm active duty Navy, and I've been a TTMer, a through the mail autograph guy since I was 8, and I'm 30, and I'm 39 now. So I've learned a lot of tricks. And then I was with the Blue Angels in Pensacola for 3 years. And when you go there, they kind of teach you how to talk to people a little bit better than average. And so I incorporated that into my TTM letters. And whenever that happened, man, I started getting some of the most insane stuff I've ever gotten in my life. JJ Watt cleat, Luke Kuechly cleat. I've gotten Ichiro. I've gotten Mike Trout. Gotten Tom Brady.
Wow.
So I wrote Jerry Lawler, and I sent him an 82. And I do my research like any good TTMer should do. And I commented, that I heard you were great at drawing. My daughter loves drawing. Well, he sent me this.
Yeah, I have to tell you, I saw.
So it's not as cool as the 82 that he drew for you.
No, it's cool.
But that's
amazing.
I think it's pretty cool as well.
Oh, I saw.
Man.
So when I don't somehow I either saw your signed All-Stars in my feed. I don't remember the exact sequence, but I saw you post that, and I was like, that's awesome because you got it right around the same time I did. So didn't you get that maybe like 6-8 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he got you got from the same stash of unused sketch cards. And listen, I got supposedly a deal. I'm not going to say what I paid, but obviously it wasn't free. You hit a home run there, and more importantly, it's something that you'll never forget. Opening the mail and being like, "Holy cow! Look what's here!"
Absolutely.
Now I have a question for
Mike. Show him yours. Show him your Jerry the Lawler shit.
Yeah, mine's Ferguson Jenkins, but I have a question for both of you. With both of you having that, would you both consider getting that graded or like slabbed? Or are you guys both fine with the way it sits?
I'll let you answer first, and then I'll answer.
I don't know. Personally, I don't think I would ever get it slabbed. I'll keep it in a magnetic, or put it in a magnetic and a team bag, and that's it. I mean,
right.
It's just super cool to me. Like,
yeah,
I don't feel the need to slab it. And Mike, I slab damn near anything.
Right.
That's me personally.
Dave, how about you?
Well, I tell you, I want to get it. I think that here's the real issue. I don't really know how to. And what I mean by that is that let me see if I can look on the back. I can't read it in the room I'm in right now because it's the ultra fine print. Yeah. This is like, I put it on Instagram, and I think somebody said it's like 2007 WWE, like it was a chase card of some kind. I could be wrong on the year.
Right.
So this is not the card that came in the set. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I'm gonna speak to some people at PSA and see what the best course of action is. I would love to have it in a holder. I like stuff in a slab. I'd say that you don't need to. I mean, it's certainly not going to change the value. And, you know, I posted this on the same guy, Mark, his Memphis wrestling page, and like instantly somebody was blowing my direct messages up trying to buy it. And I'm like, you don't know who you're dealing with. I mean, you really think that I'm going to sell this? It's not I mean, it's not that I made a money. The difference is, like, this is something that is like a personal thing. Like,
for sure.
I don't sell stuff that actually has, like, I mean, it was a really neat feeling to talk to Jerry the King Lawler 2 times in one day on the phone. And then, you know,
he takes time out of his day to draw that specifically for you at your request. I mean, that is, I can't see anyone who would want to do that. That's such a personal touch in anyone's collection that it makes total sense that you would both hang on to it in whatever format you decide, because the story behind both of those alone is fantastic. I think it's just fantastic.
And to take it one step further, I mean, I have dedicated so much time to the Wrestling All-Stars. I mean, my site, I built a website. It's down, but I tracked down all the order forms, the pictures they use for the cards. It's almost embarrassing how much time and energy I put into this. So I'm not going to just turn over something that has so much sort of meaning.
For sure.
All right, so this one you guys are going to love. So this is, and there might be a few more out there. This is a sign in college, Dwayne Johnson. Okay, so this is, and I got this JSA, it's full letter. So once again, back to the benefit of being online, I was the first person to actively chase the Bumblebee Dwayne Johnson. And so I had this guy from Miami contact me, and his mom worked for the school. And in '94, for the boosters, for a select few people, they had full signed team sets. And so I ended up buying the '94 set. There's a bunch of other sets like 91, 92, 93, 95, which there's not really anybody in there that quote unquote matters. He had a few really beat up loose sheets of the '94. And so initially, and this is, listen, I mean, 10 years in your career makes a lot of difference. You know what I'm saying? Right. So back then, to spend $1,000 on something was, it was a bigger deal to me. And so initially I said, well, I'll drive down to Miami and check this stuff out. Yeah. And then I was like, you know what? The time, the energy, the gas, the tolls, I was like, I'll just take my chances. So anyway, the stuff came, and that is a legitimate in college signed Dwayne Johnson. And what was so fun is, I'm on Instagram, but when I first got started, I didn't really have many posts. I certainly had no followers. I tagged The Rock, and all of a sudden my phone started blowing up. He commented on the picture, and so then all of a sudden it showed up in his feed. And so I think that this year in particular, the Dwayne Johnson has gone berserk. That right there is a unbelievable item because it's signed in college. So, he was happy to be signing anything, I mean,
for sure,
so I've got next. So from Orlando, like I said, American Dream, Dusty Rhodes.
That's a 10 right there.
Yeah, this is a
That's sure
that's a population 1.
unbelievable.
So this is great. I bought that in 2010, and I got shilled in this Ric Flair auction. So back to the message board, you know, I told the people on PSA that I was going to bid on this Ric Flair card, and one of the guys decided to shill me, not to help the seller, just because he thought I was a quote unquote douchebag. And so anyway, no problem. So that was I was so dead set on winning the Ric Flair, and so we go to TNA that night because I live in Orlando, like I said. So Ric Flair is wrestling for the first time in TNA, and I didn't have a smartphone, so we race to the car after the show, and I see that I've won the Ric Flair at like $1,225. I mean, people were like, "This is in 2010." So for a wrestling card, I mean, that was like stupid money. And so anyway, I had bid on a few other cards, and I won this Dusty for $122, which was you know, great. So you know, yeah, at the time I got boned on the Flair, but 10 years later, this is still a pop 1, and there's I think 9 nines, and so this is pretty good card.
No doubt.
This one right here is so the 86 Carnation.
Yep.
I will tell you this. I'm not entirely certain if these are 85 or 86, and I'll tell you why. On the front, it shows the trophy that says 86. On the back, it's 85 copyright. Okay. Now, my best research is that in 84 and 85, the NWA and AWA created Pro Wrestling USA. Yep. And so it died before 85 ended, okay? Well, if you look at this set, the Rick Martel is a picture with him with the belt. He left the AWA at the very end of 85. There's a poster offer on the back. I've never once seen the poster. And to be honest with you, if there's an 80s collectible where people could mail in to get a poster, they've got to surface. So I think, personally, what they are is I think they're from 85. And I think they coincide with the Pro Wrestling USA promotion because there's 6 cards, and all of them are AWA and NWA champions. And so a co-promoted set, that's just sort of my belief. Now, the Flair, these come in 2 cards to a pack, and it comes with Kamala. And these came in hot cocoa mix. And so you can just imagine the 2 little cards shaking around in a cocoa mix box. This Flair is a pop 1. I think there's 7 nines, and I think there's 7 eights. So, I mean, it's super, super rare and high grade. I paid good money for this card. You know what happens, a lot of the people that are dealers, you know, they know that I'm in the market. And I remember I emailed one of the guys. I said, "Did you get this 10? He said, "Yep." And I said, "Hey, we got to have it." And, you know, so I started at a modestly high price, and then, "Oh, no, we need this." And okay, you know, and once again, I mean, back to the example before, I mean, you're paying $20,000 for some guy that's never even played a game in the big leagues. Right. This is a population 1 Ric Flair. I've been actively submitting these Carnation cards for 10 years or 9 years, and you know, it's a stunner. So
yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
All right, so you asked for sort of my favorites. It's sort of impossible to like pick a favorite. This is probably my most expensive card. This is the Mike Tyson 86 Super Sport Italian.
My gosh.
And a PSA 10.
Wow.
That is a population 3. And I bought that a number of years ago, and it is it's a really big card, and I feel fortunate to own it. Let's just say that.
No doubt.
Believe it or not, this is the card I paid the most for in my collection. Because I bought a lot of this stuff years ago.
Right.
So this is a Kerry Von Erich, the 82 All-Stars. Now, let me put this thing back up. If you look at the bottom, you see how much lower border that has?
Right.
Yep.
Okay, this has the best centering that you could ever dream of on a Kerry Von Erich. And so I bought this when it was a Pop 1. It's a Pop 2 now. A PSA 9, there's only 2 of those. And, you know, I try to be, you know, reasonable. I mean, I don't view Beckett Wrestling All-Stars as like even in the same category as PSA.
Right.
There's so many of them are just atrociously overgraded. And so anyway, I don't collect those. So
Gotcha.
yes, there's, you know, I bought early on 2 BGS 9.5 Kerry Von Erichs. One of them I cracked out. I got a PSA 8. You know, the other one I just sold because it had a bad back corner, and I was like, there's 0 chance this is going to cross over. So that is a really rare card. It was a shootout between me and Ray. Ray is from Hawaii, and he has the number 2 82 All-Star Series A and B. I mean, and I think he's number 3 in 83. I mean, he's got some sick cards. So, you know, when these things happen where it's a registry deal, and then for me, I told you earlier, Kerry Von Erich is one of my favorites. So I stewed over it all week, and I said, okay, I'm going to go 2,500. Okay. And so with 36 seconds to go, I put in 2,500. And man, my heart's racing. I'm pounding. And like seconds later, I'm outbid. I was like, whoa. Because I thought, you know, like 2,500, you know, I'm close, right? So I bid 3,000, and all of a sudden we're tied. But because Ray had bid first, he was ahead. I said, you know what? With like 4 seconds to go, I put 3,100 in, and I win it for 3,050. Don't regret it at all. I mean, it's you know, it's a cherished card, and you know, like I said, I mean, for me, you know, I have so many. I don't know. I have maybe like 40 something Kerry Von Erichs. I mean, I got a bunch of them. I like it when you buy a card that is far and away your best copy. You know,
right?
Like, if you lined up, like, let's say we covered up the flips, and I showed you guys all the cards, you would pick this one as the 10. You'd say, okay, right, that's the best one. So nice. I'm real into eye appeal, and so this one has tremendous eye appeal.
Hey, David, do you know the top 3-4 guys in the registry?
Do I know them?
Yeah, like you say, you know Ray, and he's like number 2 or 3 given the set. I know in the sports world, a lot of the guys and some of the bigger registries kind of know each other.
Oh yeah, no, we know each other because what happens on eBay is you start to recognize bidder IDs.
Right.
Now, what's interesting is pre-war card collector just started hiding IDs, and the first thing that people were saying is, well, that's going to cost shilling. Well, honestly, it's going to make it tougher because it's, you know, I think that like in the registry stuff, when somebody knows you need the card, it's really easy for somebody to bid you up because it's like, hey, DPEC 100 needs that, you know? And so anyway, yeah, I know Ray, Joey Graben, Greg, I mentioned earlier. He's not public, but he's got a tremendous set. I'm great friends with Rob England. He's Wrestling Card King. So yeah, you start to know because when it comes down to the wire, you've got to be ready for battle, and
right.
You know, you sort of know that, hey, this guy's coming for you whether you like it or not.
Yeah, no doubt. That's crazy.
So this right here is an Andre PSA 9.
That's wild.
So this is a population 4, and I have only lost one auction that I was like desperate to win. And so I want to say it was 2011, the first Andre 9 hit. And I bid at the end, and a reseller from California, he won it. And it just, he put it up on eBay and sat there for a while. So when the second one came available, a dealer from California hit me up and said, "Hey, guy just hit this. Do you want it?" And so I bought that. And that the Andre in a 9 is a massive card. Like I said, population 4, but to get PSA grades these tougher, and so it's going to be real challenging for that number to grow much. I told you earlier I've got a lot of Hogans. This is my best copy. This is the one that's in the SMR this month. When PSA, like on the card facts and on the SMR, that's the one they use. It's been in the magazine a few times. This is a great story. I was down in Miami and took my wife on vacation and get a text from same card dealer that I bought the flare from, and he's like, I got a fresh Hogan 9, and because I had sent him a message. I was like, did you get that? And so he wrote me back, yeah. So I was like, I gotta buy it. Well, he didn't want to. He put it on eBay, and at the time at a really high price. And I was like, man, come on, dude, you got to sell that to me. I need that one, because I think the thing that people forget is there's variance in the grade. And so I really wanted a better centered copy than the other two I had. Like, not that the other ones are not nice, but there are cards that are closer to 10s that are closer to 9s. And so anyway, I paid a record price for the Hogan at the time. Been sort of known to do that, and it was a great purchase. And I just love that card because it's one of those cards where nobody's going to look at that and say, well, it's got this or it's got that. I mean, it's a blazer.
Nice.
Final card. So this is the I have 2 Ric Flair 10s, and so that card actually is a population 5. The pop report shows a population 6. The first Flair, matter of fact, the guy I bought my first set of All-Stars from, he had it. He sent it to Beckett to cross it over. So when I got into that bidding war, that was the second Flair 10. And so I knew back then that these were going to be very, very difficult. I bought enough sets and had lots of like 6s and 7s and, centering issues, print dots, corners. And I wasn't by any means at the time as much of an expert on card grading, but, visual appeal is sort of easy to pick up on. And so what happened is because I got shilled and a few more popped up, the card dropped in half. And so it sat there. Somebody, I think they paid like maybe $700 or $800, and finally they lowered it to $574. And I remember I was walking my neighborhood, and I said, just like in stocks, you paid $12.25. You're going to be in this for the long term. Just double down. So I bought the second Flair for $575, to lower my cost and to have 2. And there's only been one pop up since then. So, and actually the last one, Gary Vaynerchuk bought from a guy off Twitter, and, and I don't want to say what he paid, but let's just say that it's drastically higher than what I paid. So, and the Flair is, I think the thing with some of these guys is, and, I was on, I've been on other podcasts, but one of the things I always talk about is like the pop culture element. And when you think about the money that's come into trading cards and the sort of broad range of collectors, I mean, go back a couple of years ago when Ric Flair did the that sort of like pep talk for the Colts. Well,
Mhm.
what if one of those guys decides that they want to collect trading cards?
Right.
And they find out that there's a Ric Flair rookie. You get some of these guys with really deep pockets.
Mhm.
The sky's the limit. And
Yeah.
when you saw this year, I mean, we've seen a Mike Trout go for 3.8 million. We've seen a LeBron and a Giannis go for 1.8 million. I don't live in the fantasy world that thinks that wrestling would ever get to those levels. But I can tell you this right now: if you get some pro athletes, or in the case of Gary Vee, where they have very deep pockets,
Yeah, influencers.
and influencer, they're not afraid to pounce. I mean,
Yeah.
I think one of the things that's driven the market for cards in general is, take a guy like Justin Bieber. We can sort of make fun of him or say, well, his music stinks. When Bieber gets on Instagram and shows off his high grade Pokemon like he did a year ago, that makes people want the stuff. It makes it cool. And so, I mean,
Right.
Pokemon is sort of the poster child for stuff that's gone up. Today, Maradona from soccer died. I mean, if you look at the completed prices of soccer cards, I mean,
Right.
it's shocking what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, that's why I think with the high grade wrestling stuff has extreme rarity and likability, and you're gonna have a hard time getting them. Ray's got a 10, Greg has a 10, I have 2 of them, and Gary Vee has 1. So
Crazy.
there you go. That's the 5 that exist. So how do you get one?
Right. Well, David, I want to thank you 1,000 times over, man.
Sure.
You and I, before
Yeah.
we started, were saying, well, let's try to get to 20 minutes. Let's go to 30 minutes. The next thing we know, we're here for an hour.
Yeah.
Well, when you said 30 minutes, I'm like, that's not happening, because I like to talk.
I think we'd love to have you on maybe in a couple months.
Yeah.
To go. I think you have so much more to talk about. Your knowledge base on this subject is just tremendous, man. And we'd love to have you on again in the future if you'd come back.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, I think, it's like, there's a website, Wrestling Trading Cards, and so WrestlingTradingCards.com. I would encourage anybody that's listening to go to the site, look at the checklists. I think that the big issue with wrestling cards is there's a lot of great cards, and you don't have to necessarily go with the what's now become expensive vintage. I mean, take The Rock. Now, I'm not necessarily big on some of his cards, but he's got. I mean, his cards have gone up significantly. There's a lot of Rock cards that are very cheap. So, like, if you had somebody that just likes The Rock, you can go and find cheap stuff. And so, if you're a collector on a budget, there's so much to choose from. If you're a collector that's looking for the higher dollar stuff, now all of a sudden wrestling has entered that sphere. And so, I'll definitely come back on. Like I said, Wrestling Trading Cards. I've been on. He does a YouTube show. I've been on there a couple times. Like we talked earlier this morning about your 85 O-Peachy. 85 O-Peachy Series 1. That is a hidden gem right now. It's quickly being discovered. You're going to, I hope for your sake, that your Hogan and perhaps the other ones you graded come back well. I mean, my estimate is that the print run is probably a 10th of the tops. Now, if you look at baseball, it took a while for O-Peachy to take off, but now all of a sudden O-Peachy is highly desired. And I think in the wrestling world that, there's just not a lot of material that matters. So 85 O-Peachy, Series 1 Hogan is a really great card. And if all of a sudden you have a really nice condition one, you're in good shape. And the other issue we talked about this morning is the wax box. A sealed O-Peachy that's wrapped and, like in a reputable wax sealer's wrapping That's a $2,000 box. Well, good luck opening that. You know, like I've ripped some expensive stuff. I mean, the most expensive I've ripped are the 82 All-Stars. I'm not ripping a $2,000 wax box. It's not happening. So, you know, it's going to take people like you that stored them properly from 85. There's not many of those out there. A lot of them are off-centered. So the population of nice cards is going to stay low. And so that's a very good card. And I think, you know, I'm hopeful for you that you get some good grades. And maybe when you get those done, we can come back on and talk about that.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. Hopefully they're back in time. You never know PSA's backlog these days. You never know when you're going to get it back. So I would expect in January or February I should have them.
Well, it's a you know, it's a blessing and a curse that PSA is so busy. I think that we all as hobbyists just have to be patient. When I first started submitting the Wrestling All-Stars, I mean, I look back, I love to see my subs. There's some hits, there's some misses, but I have a bulk sub from 2010, 133 cards. It popped in 4 days, and that was a $5 special.
Wow.
You know? So think today, now, I mean, it takes sometimes 7 weeks for your cards to log in, you know, so they're sort of in like card limbo for a long time. And that's 7 business weeks too. So you can get maybe a holiday or, you know, bad stretch of weekends. They get there on a Friday. It's a lot of calendar days. But on the flip side, I think the hobby, you know, has never been stronger. And I think graded cards, you know, there's a lot of people in wrestling that sort of push back, and I get that they don't like the differentiation, or I'm sorry, I butchered that word. They don't like the idea that my Hogan's better than your Hogan. You've got a 9 and they have a 6. But that's what's taken wrestling cards to the next level. I mean, you needed people to want the stuff. You needed there to be chase cards. And so just like today with the modern products, they limit the number of good ones. Well, the scarcity element of older cards was created by the factory and by handling. And so to make the stuff valuable, you need a tier. You need some that are 6s, some that are 7s, you know, 8s, 9s, 10s, etc. So anyway, I think, you know, I'm very proud of what's happened with wrestling cards. I mean, clearly I like the fact that they've gained value. I mean, that's good for me personally, but I also like the fact that, you know, we took this from garbage bins to where, you know, there's real interest, and, you know, we've had a broadening of the collector base. And to me, that's very exciting.
Absolutely. Well, Mr. Peck, I think we're going to close it out, my friend. Thanks again, you know, for joining us for so long. So
it was fantastic having you on, David. Appreciate your time, your knowledge, and look forward to the next time we get you back on here and catch up with you again.
Sounds good, guys. Nice to meet y'all. Y'all have a great evening.
Nice to meet you. Okay, man, that was absolutely phenomenal. His knowledge base is
like, honestly, Garrett, I could just listen to him talk, because, I mean, we always joke on this channel that we're a couple of knuckleheads that don't know much, but you listen to him talk and he's so knowledgeable, knows about the 82s and, you know, how they are distributed and the whole bit. And there's probably other people out there that know that too. And they're probably looking at us going, you idiots, there's so many people that know that. But the knowledge he has and the collection is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
And then I guess as a new collector to the 82 and 83 Wrestling All-Stars, kind of myself in the past 6 months, I guess it's kind of nice to have hopefully someone like Mr. Peck now in my back pocket, to where if I have a question, I can just hit him up on Instagram or you know, through social or whatever, and be like, hey man, I see this or see that, and what's your thoughts? So
well, he is the guy in the I mean, he's #1 in PSA, right?
Insane. And yeah, I didn't even go into I was reading like he's in the PSA Hall of Fame. You know, that's something I want to talk about in the future. And so I know we normally do a pickup section, Mike. I'm down to pass that up this time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I'm good to close it out, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Till next time, y'all. Adios. Be safe. Bye-bye.